First, at today's meeting of the so-called National Cabinet, there were two big issues on the agenda for the PM and the state premiers to try and fix. The first, a public hospital system under massive pressure with waiting lists blowing out, long delays in emergency departments and GPs with their books closed. And the second issue, Australia's housing industry that will build at least 100,000 fewer homes than needed to keep up with the demand over the next 5 years. And as a consequence, a crisis in homes available to rent at prices people can afford. So why the hell, with services that can't cope and rents that are already through the roof, are we increasing migration to some of the highest levels in Australia's history? 650,000 extra people to house, employ and move around in just the next 2 years. We need to house the equivalent of a city almost twice the size of Canberra every 2 years. It doesn't make sense. Yet the big Australia ideology, like the climate ideology that has completely captured officialdom, well, it just grinds on, leading to needless daily difficulties in the lives of just about everyone. Stagnant wages, housing costs that are skyrocketing, clogged roads and public transport, and services like a place at a childcare centre, aged care bed or an appointment with your GP that can't keep up. Frankly, it was pathetic that the relevant Minister Claire O'Neil, releasing the government's immigration review yesterday, couldn't give a figure for the population that her government was planning for, even though she's responsible.
40 million? 30 million? Mm-hmm. What sort of number do you think Australia can cope with overall?
Mm-hmm. So it's an important question, but one that I'm not here to express a view on today. It's really important to me that we can have a conversation about migration policy in our country, which is not just reduced to the size of the population.
So who's looking at the total population?
Well, the population...
Whose responsibility would it be?
Well, it's not that it's not my responsibility, it's just that I think that really distracts from the issues that we're here to talk about today, which is a migration system that is fundamentally broken and not delivering for the country.
And she calls herself a minister. Well, given that immigration is the swing factor that's under the government's control, and that now determines how many new dwellings plus the extra infrastructure we'll need to cope, the fact that she can't talk about it or won't talk about it says everything. Meaning it's hard to avoid the conclusion that ministers and officials are simply drowning, that they're going through the motions rather than cracking on with real reforms designed to make the lives of people already here in Australia better, not worse. Now, you know you're in trouble when the government can't see the absurdity of ramping up immigration without also ramping up housing and infrastructure construction. And it's not realistic to ramp up construction, and if it's not realistic to ramp up construction, well, how about we scale back immigration to a level where infrastructure and services can cope and catch up? As I see it, there's a real opportunity here for the Liberal opposition to come up with a clear policy that will resonate with voters and set them apart from the Labor government. To take immigration back, let's say, to the average of the Howard years, that was around 100,000 annually, not this 300 plus that the government wants now, at least until the country can cope. And say to business that you might just have to start to pay Australians more, train more of our own young people, rather than just take the soft option of importing cheap labour from abroad. Over to you, Peter Dutton.